jump on. Let's see, make host. Okay, so you're now the host.
Too
And
dark.
let me see here. Let me see. Uh, okay. Yeah, I believe. God, it's so hot. Dying. Let's see here.
You
There we
guys are
go.
in summer weather. I'm in
Well, it's just
fall.
humid. It's humid and it is Mexico, you know.
Yep.
Okay, it's live. All
Okay.
right, so I'm gonna check out. Sorry, but I'm in the middle of a move, so
Yeah.
you guys, thank you for what you're doing, and I'll see y'all next week. Have a great show, okay?
Thanks, Todd. Have a
And
great
thanks
move.
to
All right, take care.
All right, you too.
Katie. What a week.
All right.
And hi, everybody. I'm guessing you've all had the same week we're all having. What is going on?
Yeah, it's really heavy. Really strange time on the planet.
It is. It
Not,
is.
not a fan.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not able
I'm
to see this
sorry.
live.
We're a bit distracted. Bear with us one sec while we get. We just want to keep track of what you guys are saying, so we're just getting this video up live as well. And why am I not seeing it?
Neither am I.
And I guess if I go, no, I'm not seeing it.
No. Oh, Roseanne says she sees us and it's live.
Thanks, Roseanne. Good to know. Good to know we're not talking to ourselves.
Oh, there we go. I see it. I see it. And Mike H is there. Oh, thank
Mike,
God for you guys.
thank
It
God for
just,
God.
yeah, it just came up.
I'll try it again.
So, yeah, I reached out to Chase because you and I were just on the phone an hour ago while I was bawling my eyes out. And I said, "You got any questions I can start the show with?" And so she gave me a bunch of stuff actually. And I don't know if you want to talk about them or something. Your experience with the Arcturians. Who are they? How are they helping us? What should we know?
Great question. Great question. Yeah. Um, well, yeah, my experience with the Arcturians, like I said I mean, you might have seen that first video I did where I just basically told my story. You know, they've been with me my whole life, and but they stayed in the background, but they showed up physically sort of between 2014 and 2016. They showed up and introduced themselves properly for the first time. And they just said it wouldn't have served me growing up for them to show themselves then. I needed to go through um, what I was experiencing through that fifth dimensional clear sight connection I've got. And I needed to have kind of enough of all the elements of this paradigm that we're going through so that they could help me staying in the background. They could help as I moved through life to get to the point I got to in 1994, sorry, where I asked for help directly from God. And then I went through another process after the asking for help and via a whole series of events over 3 years and then connecting directly. And I had two conversations directly with God in the UK in 1997. Then I went through another process when I connected to my twin flame soulmate, who's part of this whole process. Then we went through a whole series of experience. Clear sight was going through the whole time. So I had this whole thread of experiences that were building up a picture over time. But of course, the price I was paying for living a life that goes against the stream was pretty intense. So around the time
Yeah.
they showed up, I was at that point again. And since
But
then,
who are they? But who
well,
are they? Like, okay, okay.
they've been helping me integrate my experience so that I can speak clearly now. Now, that has been timed for everyone on the planet going through the same or similar process I've been going through my whole life. So they're here to help us with that. So they're a ninth density ET race, um, part of a galactic federation that is headed up by the Nazarene. And they were responsible for the genetic creation of the human race, which was done for a purpose. Um, so they're helping us. They'll be helping us as things move forward with open contact, which is very close, by the way. The rate the human race is waking up, but they're here to help us with a massive paradigm shift. Basically, the way God put it, with this transition wave, there's an energy wave that's been moving through the galaxy, and it's having a massive effect on our sun and our planet, which our body resonates with. So we're basically physically rising. We're becoming less dense, what people would call crystalline, and that's a process that's going to be playing out. Well, that means that our whole paradigm will collapse and then be rebuilt. Now, that's basically what we're all going through. That's what people are. The idea that the old paradigm has any road left is fast going to run out of road for everyone on the planet. So that's really their role. Now we're being brought to a point where open contact can happen properly. Then we'll move pretty quickly, but um, their first step is to kind of help people like you guys on the call via people like me. And there have been a lot of people around the world going through ET connections to kind of get us ready. I mean, one thing God said was that you do not truly know a thing until you've lived it. So enough people need to be at a certain point in having this false persona shut down and replaced with the truth of who we are so that we can speak from that. I don't know if that's clear or I can elaborate, but I'll leave it at that and we'll just kick it off.
No, that's pretty good. I liked how you touched on more and more people having ET experiences around the world. I will not say globe. I will say world. Um, I won't. It's like saying pandemic. I can't do it. It's a plandemic. It's a scamdemic. Um, yeah, I've been listening to this show, not regularly, not consistently, called Coast to Coast AM, and George Norrie is very well known around the world for his I don't know, his journalism in alternative in ETs, and the ET encounters and experiences, whether they're AI, whether they're false or whatever, they're through the roof. So regardless of the percentage of like accuracy or authenticity or whatever, it's really up leveled, really up leveled. Um, I've been It's so funny too. I've been watching this show for the third or fourth time that our friend Ann is watching, Medium, and
Oh, yeah.
it's with Patricia Arquette and Jake Weber. And I've been taking notes because some of them are so full of truth dropping that it's like I don't know. It I'm trying to find the note. Yeah. So, like in season 2, episode 3 of Medium, Allison's thoughts and dreams are changing the past. And there was recently a very mainstream article about our thoughts and intentions affecting the past. So like, and then in also the same season, episode 3, the doctor, a doctor prescribes Allison anti-anxiety meds because she's sleepwalking or whatever, and she makes a face at him and he says, "Oh, don't worry, all your neighbors are taking them too." So it's like all of these, like the programming in the shows is off the charts. Like I can't even wrap my head around.
Yeah.
And I segued from ET. I'm really scattered tonight. I'm very sad and I'm really uncomfortable. And I went from the coast to coast with George Norrie to the television shows Dropping Truth, but I mean it's all kind of related, right? I mean, once you open your eyes, all the dots connect. Right?
Exactly. And that,
Yeah.
I mean, great way to start. Let's connect the ET presence with basically what you're experiencing and feet on the ground.
Yep.
That's really important. It is really important because there's
Um,
a
yeah, yeah, I know. You've been telling me for 3 years you don't know a thing until you've lived it and direct experience, and I'm just like absolutely convinced I'm broken and I'm doing this all wrong. And but just to get off of me for a second, Chase just asked, why is it that some people are in touch with ETs and others aren't? Is there a way we can signal and get in touch? Or if they aren't in touch with us, is that for a specific reason? Like she's asking all these questions that we are all curious. Like when Anne or I hear that somebody else has this like specific gift or experiences, we're like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do that? Why isn't that happening to me? Right? So like Chase is asking in a very eloquent way, what's going on? Why is it like that? You're muted. Oh, okay, you're coughing. Gotcha,
yeah.
gotcha.
Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I've had a bit of a it's hay fever season here, so I've had a little bit of a cough. I
Yeah.
just don't want to deafen everybody. Yeah, great question again. Well, one thing God told me, it's not good to give all the answers.
All
And
the answers. I want all
yeah,
the answers.
exactly.
Sorry, go on, go on.
You're right, you're right. And he said your motivation is your protection in all things, and there's a connection with them. So um it's not that everyone doesn't have this gift at all. Because, like I said, I mean, I have clear sight. Well, what is that? It's just basically a direct connection to the full fifth dimensional experience that the human race is capable of. And that's every human on the planet. We're all, the way God put it, all self-aware life is five-sided. So, the ET connection, they're helping us come back to our true nature. But firstly, everyone has to be at a certain point that they can receive that communication. So it's not just about what's being said, but the ability to receive it.
Yeah.
So there's a process that's being undone, and
We're
people are at different stages. That's all.
exactly, we're all being brought to the place where collectively we have the capacity to hold open contact, to experience open contact, because we're not there right now, yeah, I understand that. I understand that. But I think some of us that are here and have the capacity would love a little assistance. Like I feel like it's really hard to be here. And I
Yes,
know you said to me earlier tonight that I think I said, what's to say one of these mornings when I wake up not wanting to be here, that I don't just opt out. Like,
mm,
who's to say I'm not going to just decide I'm done? And you
yeah,
said, well, what did you say to me? It was along the lines of, well, that's what they want.
that's what they want.
Like, they want you to choose from free will to check out,
Yep.
whether physically life ending, not a
Mm,
thing, or check out with like the desensitization, like check out emotionally, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, and that's sort of what happens. I know it's hard, and it's great you're vulnerable and open about this. We need more, just let's be honest, about where we're really at. And then we can speak to each other for the first time about what is that really? And that's the time we're at. One of the things the Arcturians told me when they first showed up was do not give your lives to entropy. And I don't know if you've heard of the word entropy. If you haven't, it's meant to be the opposite of the creative force. So
Right, right. It's apathy. Someone in last week's show, when I talked about how apathetic I feel, said apathy, something about the apathy and the relation to Satan. Like all you need is Jesus Christ, they said. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but don't give your life to entropy. Like I'm trying so hard. Like in that conversation with you just an hour ago, I went from recognizing like I don't love this or them or it, and then in 10 minutes I'm like, but I love all of it
yes,
so immensely
yes,
that that it's all too much to feel.
yeah, absolutely. And that's that's the power that you have, is your capacity to love is extremely powerful. It's not conditional, and that's as it should be. But it's in direct opposition to this inverted world that we live in. Something God described as the octopi that binds. And it's like when you're young, you don't know you've got a choice. Now that doesn't mean we do have a choice to stay with our heart and not buy into this lie called this is life. This is the way life is. We do have that choice, but um, we didn't really realize that that's the way it was.
Right. It
Yeah.
wasn't conscious. Like that's why so much of this is like not claiming victimhood, right? But at the same time realizing it was a thing done to us.
Yeah,
Right? Like
that's it.
we chose it, but it's still
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And getting those into balance again, like, there was a situation that we were put into, and that was done deliberately by a certain element, and that has to be recognized.
And nobody will recognize it. As far as I can see, far as I can see, people run from that.
Yeah,
Like it's all love
that's,
and light.
yeah, that's right. Because, we've been running from this since we were children without even knowing what we were running from. It's just this unknown. When you're a little kid, all you know is the adults around you aren't happy with you in different moments, or you're put in situations that it's way too overwhelming, and you feel like it's you. You take it on like it's you
Yeah.
because that's how it seems.
And you don't know any better.
You don't know anybody yet.
You
You're a
don't have
kid.
emotional maturity. You're a little one.
That's right. And then, of course, that puts you at odds with the reality of who you are. Something God said, what's the problem we all face? The ego that controls lack of a belief in an absolute reality. And that's where that gets set in. You need to control who you're being in any particular moment, but you don't know what that is or why. So it's confusing. So you're trying to get it right. And of course, you fail. And the result of that is it seems to reinforce the judgment that you're
Yeah.
somehow a problem. And it just gets bigger and more detailed, and your whole mind and persona form around it like that's life and that's real. And that's the whole point of the inversion. That's what it's based on. So to get back to life, which is what everyone's like, hang on a minute, this ain't doing it for me anymore. I've got to not, I'd rather, like you, I'd rather leave life. When I hit the wall in 1993, that's exactly how I felt. Like I woke up in the middle of the night saying out loud, if this is all there is to life, I could die right now and I wouldn't care. And I think we all know that feeling. You know that feeling. You hit the end of the road because it's a finite energy. It's not love. You're not
No.
being, you're not in this sort of infinite energy loop of connecting with what is. Your energy connects with what is, and you're constantly being nourished by the love of the all that is coming to you in each experience and loving each experience. It's like an energy. You don't dissipate. But if that's not there, that's what happens. You run out of life force. And until you've got nothing left, you burn out basically because it's designed that way. Now,
Yeah.
in that moment, you've got the choice to go back and you now want to know why, to take that sophisticated ability to ask that question, and now you've got the verbal ability. Now you've got the you're an adult.
Yeah.
You do understand, but you've got to go back through all the moments that reinforce you being the problem and let them be undone one by one with that question, what's going on? What's going on? Until you get back to that moment where you first left yourself. Something that Ramana Maharshi, who the Arcturians described, he brought in satsang, which is the path of self-inquiry in a way that was designed to match the transition now. That was his life purpose. Um, you know, that process, um, I just lost the thread. Coming back to the truth of who you are.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, he described that moment as disillusionment is the final state. So complete disillusionment with who you are and where you are, but wanting to know the truth. You put the two together, you're coming back to that point where you first left yourself. So what you didn't have the ability to do at the time, which is discern what's really going on, now you've got the ability. You've just got so much in the way,
You've
so
got
much
so
history.
much in the way. You have like
Mm.
all of that time up until the moment you had the capacity to ask those questions. You have
Yeah.
all of that time to like deprogramming, unlearning
Hmm.
takes everything you've got. And
Everything you've
you
got.
and who are you to tell anyone to do what you're doing? Not that I have, but who are you to tell anyone to do what you're doing? Because you look crazy.
Mm.
You've withdrawn from normal society. You're not walking the way. I've talked to numerous friends this past week who are intentionally scheduling time with friends and family. And I'm like, why? Like, not to be a cold-hearted bitch, but like, why are you forcing yourself to do something the inside of you doesn't want to do?
Mm.
Like, that's why I think I'm so alone because I did that. I left everybody with love and with like as gentle, clear of an explanation as I could give,
Mm.
but I still left. I
Yeah.
still, because I couldn't do it. There's no more scheduling this. I don't think I'm going to be at Thanksgiving. I'm not going to be at Christmas. I can't. I
Yeah.
can't be me. I can't say what I want. I don't feel love from
Mm.
them. It's from obligation and history and loyalty. And fuck all of that.
Mm.
And fuck Emily Post, who was in America, or maybe it's UK. I don't even know. I mean, but the etiquette, like
Yeah.
dear, dear Abby type of thing, where you ask, like, people apologize to me if they don't get back to my text, or they apologize that they haven't called, or these people, nobody I used to love, does that. But like they apologize, and I'm like, don't apologize, don't ever apologize. Like things are happening in divine order. Here I am babbling again, but like when you have the perspective of when we live in integrity and when we live a certain way, apologies and politeness and all that bullshit is no longer a thing because it just is. But it's been sold at us and pushed at us to be this way and to consider others outside of ourselves. Well, when you consider yourself first and you consider that anything you do to the outside is truly doing to yourself, you begin to treat all things and all people and just like everything with love and attention and goodness. Like, so there's no need to apologize. And I'm just really tired of being I shared a post recently. I'm really tired of being the bad guy in so many people's stories and the stories people are making up about me since my awakening and the mocking that I had an awakening. Like, okay, like, but if I knew somebody for 50 years and overnight they changed and they said they had an awakening, I'd be like, okay, well, for 50 years, they were absolutely dependable, lovable, exactly what I needed them to be. And they have completely changed overnight. They had an awakening. I would believe that. I would trust that. But it's looked at with like disdain. It's like I trigger everyone. Nobody wants to talk about it. I talk too much about love. All there is love. Everything else is a distortion.
Mhm.
All there is love. Everything else is a distortion. Even my own sadness, even my own grief, even this hell, this self-imposed hell that I'm in, even that is a distortion. Love is all there is, and love is all that fucking matters. And anybody who can't have that conversation with me and disses God and love, I guess I don't want anything to do with them anyway.
Well, and that's the thing, like I said, if you're trying to get life back around the right way, straight away that puts you at odds with life, with people, with how things are meant to be. Now remember, everyone gets pulled out of themselves when they're kids because that's not the natural state. So there's a massive investment in not being wrong, in being right and living the right way. And in there,
Academia has it big time.
every,
Academia is the worst of
yeah,
the
the more
worst.
the more invested you are in this world, then the harder it is for you to admit to yourself that hang on a minute, there's some questions to ask about it. You don't want to go there. But that's why people are so reactionary, because in their heart they know, like the God said, the truth, Ramana said, the truth of who you are is untouched by any of it. And, you know, uh,
Somebody asked in the chats, is this part of the split, not wanting to be around people?
great question. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And I mean, one thing Ramana said, when you argue with what is, you suffer. The fact is, you are in pain, you are angry, you are afraid, you are alone, overwhelmed, all the so-called dark feelings, they exist within you. Now, what happens when you're willing to look at them? Like, what is the real problem? You're looking back at the way you've always been and what you've always thought and how you feel right now about life. You're looking at it with a question. As soon as you do that, you're asking, what is it really? So that's the adult part of you that you didn't have when you were first pulled out of yourself, looking at the moment you felt, what's really going on? Oh, my parents aren't even talking to me. It's got nothing to do with me. It's coming from them. My school teachers, it's none of my business what they think of me. It's their own pain talking. The bullies, the school friends, everyone is coming from somewhere that has nothing to do with me. It never did. Now, if you had that realization, if you were able to have that realization as you were growing up, you wouldn't be where you're at. However, we are. So to get back to the truth of who you are, Tom said the ego that controls lack of a belief in an absolute reality. That's why Ramana said the truth of who you are is untouched by any of it. Our natural state is untouched by our mind's interpretation. So to be free of that interpretation, you've got to let it be there. And so much of it is subconscious because it's been building up since we were growing up. So much of it is below the surface.
below
So
the
that's why
surface.
we're all confused.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going on. But having that question and staring at the blank space, the space in front of us, like what's really going on? Why am my family being the way they are? Why am I feeling the way I am in response
Yeah.
to? Now
I was just gonna say, yeah.
your mind's going to come up with all sorts of answers. But this is the trick, not just believing them, because if they're the same old answers, it's the same old point of view. So if that worked, of course, you wouldn't be in a situation in the first place. That's why we've hit the wall. We've got nowhere left to go, which means our belief system is flawed somehow. We just can't understand why. And what is, like you say, it's a distortion. Well, what is it that's been distorted? What is life really, and who am I really? We've got so little direct experience of that we've got no idea. All we've got is this mess we call reality, which isn't reality. That's
No.
the only thing we've got to go on. So of course it's intense, really intense, and everything about the system is designed to stay put. The ego that controls, which is based on fear and self-doubt, is all about self-preservation. So everything your mind's telling you is about keeping everything the same. But that's the problem. So
Yeah, that
getting
is,
free of that, that's
yeah.
something you can't
That
control.
that is the problem because the story of Katie loves her sister and brother-in-law and nieces like crazy, like
Hmm.
loves them madly, but can't like go be around them. Like, don't you be reading those comments.
Sorry.
I'll do the questions.
Okay.
You're the direct right here. So like the story of Katie is like if everything is love, why can't I just be around them? Because I want to be around them because I love them, but I can't be around them comfortably because I can't talk about things I love. But they're people I love. So it's just this weird place.
Hmm.
Like nobody's done anything, yet there's a discomfort. I'm uncomfortable as soon as I'm out the door. And I'm uncomfortable with people that I have known all my life that I was never uncomfortable around. But you know what? I was uncomfortable. I was doing a dance. I was
And
like,
that's the problem. You've just got to get a handle on this whole new balance point. It's like you need to get straight about life. You've got to separate from the same old life for a while. And that's uncomfortable in a lot of ways. But getting comfortable with not knowing and and getting past self-doubt, that's the phase, getting to a certain point anyway where you can step back into these situations and be in them but not of them in the same way. So there's a big part of the healing process which is of that. And that's also not comfortable for a while. We separate from everything so we can get a handle on, hang on a minute, how do I feel about everything again?
yeah,
Where am
like I
I
don't
really
even
at?
know myself. I
Yes,
don't even,
exactly. You got to getting a handle on this problem we've got, like just getting comfortable with, okay, there's a problem, I'm looking at it, getting past all the fear and overwhelm and anxiety that brings up. There's a lot of suppressed emotional energy involved. And as soon as you ask the question, what's the truth, you start releasing it. So it intensifies for a while. So to deal with that, you need to separate socially to a degree from all the situations that trigger you in a sense, but there's a role for that because the situations that trigger us were never what we thought in the first place. The only way to know the truth is to experience them. So, life, God is going to take you through a series of experiences that take you out of your comfort zone deliberately because making it comfortable again, finding the truth of who you are in relation to each experience where you don't need to edit yourself anymore. Remember, the
yeah,
ego that controls you avoid life so you can stay comfortable. Well, that doesn't work. That's why we feel the way we do. So
yeah,
somehow we've got to step back into life, deal with the discomfort with the question, well, yeah, but what's really going on here? So that we can be comfortable in our own skin no matter where we are or who we're with. Now, that's a process. There's two sides to it. Firstly, you go through the passive phase, you step out of everything you've always gone through. Once you get to a certain sense of equilibrium, it shifts to the active phase, is what I call it, where you start to be brought out into the world because you're ready. But the process you've gone through in the passive phase is very subconscious as well. It's why it's very disorienting. It's like the analogy in the Matrix movies where Neo first wakes up, he goes onto the Nebuchadnezzar, which is a submarine. So you're taken into the subconscious where all the emotional reality is, all the belief system stuff locks up the emotional energy because it can't let life be what it is. It's got to judge everything and compartmentalize everything and negotiate and navigate through threat, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's not reality. So the subconscious layers of all that will have to be met. So in that case, he's guided through it by guides that come in, and he's got no idea which way is up. But that's critical. And at certain times, he comes back up into the matrix to deal with conditioning, which is the agents in the matrix, who are the other people. So at some point, we've got to get a handle on the reality that we were when we were kids. They were just reacting to us from conditioning because we're kids, we're coming from life as it was meant to be, that we have to be put into their reality so that they can pretend that it is reality. Now, we're going to be angry and we're going to be afraid and we're going to be all those emotions. And that's all based on beliefs, ideas about
Right.
what's going on. And they all have to be there. We've got to let that come up.
Yeah.
We've got to be angry and we've got to tell that person why they're wrong. But we've got to have a spirit behind that, a part of us behind that who's watching it and going, yeah, but that's not what, but what's the real truth? If I knew the real truth, I wouldn't have a problem. So clearly there's something I'm missing. I don't know what it is and I don't know where it is. So therefore it could be anywhere or anything. So there's a question mark over every belief. Now they're going to be there and they have to come up to be seen. But there's a way to handle that process. There's a very specific way to handle that process so that you can let life take you through these experiences, which are like kind of, let's, um, what's the word? Archetypes of, you don't have to go through every single moment you live through. You've got to, there's archetypal experiences
Archetypal
that represent many.
moments
Yeah,
that
exactly.
represent, right. So you'll go
Yeah.
through an experience that maybe is the archetypal moment of like 150 experiences you actually had.
Yes.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is a new
Okay.
way of being. It is a whole new way of being on the money.
Oh, Mike
So
just
we're
said
not,
that. Yeah, Chase had texted me this question and then wrote it in the chat, so I know it's important. He said, can you elaborate on the upcoming paradigm shift or upcoming paradigm? Like, how will things shift? In my head, she's thinking of the telepathy tapes and leaving our physical bodies to communicate and to be and to play. Like, do you like were you given any visions to what's coming? I know you and Arna have had some dreams. Like how long is this? Like when I hear certain teachers speak about this being 100 years, I'm just like, fuck that. Like,
no, no.
right. And so the shift is happening because the absurd is absurding and the so-called hinged are behaving unhinged. So like things are happening
Yeah.
and will be happening in the coming year. I would really like open contact to be 2026. I don't know why they got to wait till 2027, but whatever. So my point, my question or her question, how do you see or
Hmm.
have you been given any information about what it's going
Yeah.
to look like? Like she's
Sure.
just really curious about how it's going to change, how you would describe it now.
Yeah. All right. Well, any paradigm shift is a two-phase process. Firstly, the old paradigm has to collapse and make room for the new paradigm. Now, in and of itself, paradigm shifts are, it's like a kid, how we learn as children. How do you learn how to make a tree house when you never made one before? There's a sort of dynamic like enthusiasm, engagement with the problem solving where you're not at odds with it. Now, that's really all we're doing. We're learning how to build a new world. We're learning how to put life in together in a way that works. And in and of itself, the true nature or the true spirit of that process is playful and engaging. Um, but we've got so much investment based on fear and self-doubt that it has to be about undoing that first before we can get back to flowing with life in that way, which is the natural state. So for a while, it's all about the net result of thinking the way we've been thinking, being felt and seen through, letting the beliefs come up, like I said, being triggered. So that's a paradigm shift. The problem with paradigm shifts, of course, is especially when there's such a big emotional investment in getting free of the whatever it is. Well, it's the context that we see reality in,
Yeah.
the current paradigm. That's the problem. The context is wrong. We aren't who we think we are, and we're not where we think we are, and life isn't what we think it is. That's the paradigm that needs to. So
None of it's real. It's so
none of it's
comical.
true. It's not even real. It's not correct. It's not right. There is an absolute reality that never went anywhere. But that's the thing with free will. You've got the capacity to choose how you experience whatever you want. But you got to ask yourself, yeah, but does it serve me to think this way or not? Now, that's never happened before. That's what is happening. What the hell is going on is the same question. So the problem with this paradigm shift is you really want it to change right now because this is too intense and I can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you can't see the new paradigm because the point of view you're looking at the answer from is the problem. So of course that point of view, everywhere you look, that's what you see, and that's the problem. What you're looking at never gets seen. It's the idea you have about it
Yeah.
that's the problem. So
Ye-
everywhere you look, that's all. But if you've got the
ye-
question, yeah, but what's the truth? Am I seeing it right? That's what undoes the old paradigm. It makes room for the new one. Now, the way that happens is it comes to you moment by moment, and you don't understand the significance often. Some random thing will happen. Sometimes it'll be about being triggered. It'll leave you with an impression that you can't sort of, it won't leave you alone, but you can't put it anywhere. So it just knocks around there in the background. Then another one. So there's these weird sort of elements coming in that you can't connect the dots, basically. So a paradigm shift is connecting the dots in a new way, but you got to have them. You got to have room for them first. You've got to be willing to stop being rigid about everything. That makes it flexible. And that's why it's bringing up all of the emotions that you need that rigid belief system to get away from self-doubt and fear.
Yeah,
And
you and I were talking about that earlier. I was like, this has been many years. Like I don't it's like what if it is the dismantling of the current paradigm that I need to start feeling better. And then we brought it around to, well, then that's you putting your happiness on the external, which of course I know. But then you said, well, maybe there's room for both because that need for things to be okay on the external might be related to why you can't move past the profound sadness. Like, not that the external is responsible for my happiness. I'm not saying that. I'm way too aware to believe that. This is all an inside job and not in the,
yeah,
cliche, overused phrase way. Um, but
but there's
but it's
conditioning in
but
there
it's
that doesn't.
related. There's conditioning, there's programming, it's related because I can feel the levity in my body when shit explodes out there. I can feel when a horrible thing happens that everybody absolutely has to see, can't not see happens. I go, awesome, right? Even though it's a seemingly horrible thing, I'm like, yes. The more of us have to look at the things I've been looking at for all these years, the more everyone's looking at it, the lighter I get, the more
Yeah,
like the pressure valve releases.
yeah.
So it's related, even though my
Mhm.
happiness isn't contingent on it, and I know it's all part of the work, but it's related.
Yes. And again, that we need to feel a sense of change because the problem with the subconscious period is it doesn't feel like anything's happening. And
I
and
feel
that's
like I'm stuck. I feel like I'm in quicksand. I feel like I haven't moved an inch.
Yeah, that's right. So the question, what's really going on, is having, and as soon as you ask that question, you can't go back. So that question is having an impact on you, whether you understand it or not, it doesn't matter. You cannot, that question won't leave you alone now. And you're going to go through a
No.
whole lot of emotional dynamics. It's going to flip from one side to the other, and it's going to feel like nothing and everything, and it brings up a lot of, like I said, suppressed energy,
There's
emotional
so
energy.
much
Yeah,
anger. There's
because
so
like
much
for
anger.
instance, what you just said, you're not going to get anywhere by trying to resolve the problem of your life by getting the world out there to change. That's the whole problem. And if that
Right.
worked, it would have worked by now, right?
Right.
12,000 years later, it's never worked for anyone. So I think a lot of people are starting to get that. We can't deal with the problems around the world from the same old level of thinking. And a lot of people are just over the conflict. Maybe there's another way. How about we see both sides of the story? That
Yeah.
kind of thing. But you just got to get clear about yourself and where you're at with that first. And that's really what happens. You're willing to admit that you got no clue what the problem you've got is, but you can't ignore the fact that you got a problem. Now, a lot of people aren't at that point yet. They're still ignoring the fact that they've got a problem. And they're reacting
Yeah.
to the change that's happening out there in the same old way. And that looks like it's bringing up a lot for us. Um, but that's all part of it too, because again, instead of reacting, we're discerning. We're looking, because the question is, it separates you from just blindly reacting,
Right.
um, and
Right.
defining it.
Because I have triggers and reactions to things, but instead of reacting, I'm looking at it. I'm
Yes.
stopping, I'm watching it, I'm considering, multiple perspectives. I'm sending love as much as I can in every given moment. I mean, Anne said in the chat, like, the more challenging this feels, the more you know you're on the right track.
Hi, Donna. Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah,
And that's the thing, it's self-doubt and fear. The last thing it wants, the ego that controls wants, is to feel that stuff. And it's a whole that belief system's whole MO is about avoiding that. And so, of course, it's going to fight every step of the way. And that's who we think we are. So a lot of self-judgment comes up. But again, that question, yeah, but what's the real truth, is still there in there. And that's again, Ramana Maharshi, the whole thing with self-inquiry and his whole what he spoke about and what he lived through himself as a kid, is let the feeling be there. That's something none of us have done before. How about we try a new way? Well, what is that? Well, firstly, this feeling, whatever it is, let it be there. Stop trying to push it away. Let yourself try to push it away. Don't feel bad about falling back into the addictions. Don't feel bad about falling into the same old behavior patterns when
yeah,
that feeling comes up. It's just you're trying to discern what's really going on. Now, you need the feeling to be there to do that. The way he described it is challenge the story your mind tells you about the feeling
yeah,
and what brought it to you. Let the story be there, let the feeling be there, and then ask for the step back and watch it for the first time. Now, the ego that controls has a counter, which is the ego in service to self, the true self, the sacred masculine version, that voice that never got a chance. That's the real personality would have formed around that if we hadn't been messed with. And again, we're trying to find a more authentic way of viewing everything, which is the mind, which is the
yeah,
masculine principle.
yeah,
So the ego that controls is the inverted form of the masculine principle. The sacred masculine is based around the objectivity, the ability to see life, let it show us what it is. That's what Ramana meant by direct experience versus indirect experience. We experience everything indirectly through our mind's interpretation of it, but that's not what it is.
yeah,
It's something else. But the only way to know that is to let your mind definition, which is there basically to hold fear, to get fear out of the way. So if you doubt the mind definition, you're going to feel the fear. And let all that be there with that question, yeah, but what's really in front of me? The reason God said to me, it's not good to give all the answers, is because it isn't about so much the information you want, but who you are, who it is that wants it. Is it the ego that controls, that wants an answer? Yeah. You want a way to get rid of it's another way of saying I just want to get rid of what I'm feeling.
Right.
So that just keeps the ego that controls in control. It's a master at making itself look like the change we want. But it isn't who we are. We think it is. This doesn't resonate with me as a classic example of the ego that controls pretending to be spiritual. Which me doesn't it resonate with? Question it. Am I really being authentic, or am I just reacting?
Well,
Now,
wait a minute. What
you're
a
not going to
what
get
a
an answer though. You won't get an answer. You won't get an answer straight away. But what happens is you're making room for the truth of who you are that can receive the answer to grow in your awareness. That takes time. And you can't control it.
we can't control any of this actually. So like it was like quitting smoking. It was like once I looked at the reason behind quitting smoking or drinking or whatever, like once I saw the reasoning, all of a sudden I didn't want to do it anymore. When I stopped shaming myself for doing it. But so much in this false paradigm is shame and guilt and control and like I'm just so when I'm listening to other speakers or watching videos or catch someone sends me reels of things and I say, oh, that definitely doesn't resonate with me. Is that the ego that controls or is that really fucking me?
Great question. And
Because I hear things now, Gareth. I put on YouTube, I'm 5 seconds in and I can't listen to it. Even if I love them and I love what they say most of the time, 5 seconds
yeah.
in, I'm out, tapped out.
Now remember, you're trying to get back to being able to discern who you really are and what you're really looking at. And that means, God said your motivation is your protection in all things. So the interpretation isn't wrong necessarily. If it's coming from the truth of who you are, you're recognizing that someone's coming from the ego that controls in a way that you never did before. The way Ramana put it, when you know your own mind, you know all minds. So there's nothing necessary. It's really about asking the question, which me doesn't it resonate with? If it's the truth of who I am, I'm free of the manipulation of that I always thought was real. Like those people had the authority to say what they were saying, and I had to believe them. That's why I got in the problem in the first place. The
Yeah.
teachers, the parents, you know, they're really these sometimes you're seeing someone coming from the same place they came from, but your ability to see it now is critical.
Yeah. And
Now,
it's
sometimes it's
clearer, it's
yeah,
sharper, it's because I'm like, well, I want some comfort. I want to hear what they have to say. And then I'm listening to what they have to say, and I'm like, that is not comfort. That is the opposite of
yeah.
comfort. But I'm
Now,
telling myself, I don't know. There's so much mind chatter. There's so much mind chatter.
exactly. And getting clear about what's worth listening to and what isn't, what's true and what isn't. That's really all we're all doing,
Yep.
that
Yep.
that again, we've been tricked into believing things are a certain way by people who need us to believe the same thing they believe so we can all pretend it's the truth.
Yeah.
And that's what we're really trying to get free of. Um, and sometimes people are on let's say, the alternative movement that's sprung up around what's playing out. They haven't really lived what they're talking about, so they don't
No, and you can
really know
feel
it
it.
authentically. And you can feel, and that needs to be there. Inauthenticity. We're trying to get back. Okay, when am I being authentic and when am I not? So we're going to see that in the people around us. Now, again, with
Right.
sat,
And that they're not necessarily malintentioned. They're not they're trying to fit into something they don't understand, but they
yeah,
haven't lived it, so you can feel it when they speak it. And Anne just asked in the chats, like, can you expand on what you always say? Your motivation is your protection in all things, because she says she's only got her head halfway wrapped around it. But that's one of my favorite sayings of yours. When I'm thinking or doing or being away, I think to myself quietly, like, your motivation is your protection in all things. Like, what is your motivation in this movement, in this act, in this moment, in this language, in this emotion? that's my favorite, one of my favorite things. It just like makes me feel better because I think my motivation is pure. I sure hope so. And if
Hmm.
it's not, I check myself. But anyway,
Yeah,
expand on that for Anne because I
yeah.
love it.
Well, your motivation is your protection in all things. God, that's something God said directly, and that deals with shame and guilt as well. That's a big one for shame and guilt. So nothing's off the table now, and all things, everything. It doesn't matter. It's not so much about what you're doing; it's where you're coming from when you do it. Now, what motivations are there? The ego that controls the truth of who you are. So in any given moment, you're going to be coming from one of those two motivations, those 2 points of view. It's just that the ego that controls is the most, it's the only point of view we've really experienced properly. Whereas the truth of who we are, we've barely experienced. We were
We've
way too.
barely experienced.
Now we're trying to put
And we
our
can
mind,
feel it. We have glimpses of it, and they're wonderful.
but our mind is trying to describe that. Our mind's job is to
Oh,
describe the truth of what we're in and the truth of who we are. It's not about telling who we are and telling life what it is. That's not the mind. That's not the mind's job. It's about receiving in each moment and putting words to it. God said it's important to name it. So that's all the mind's job is. It's just to discern the experience, the illusion of separation coming back into unity. What is it we're experiencing? And all it's been doing is describing fear and doubt and blame and shame and guilt. So your motivation's your protection in all things because now you want to know what's the truth. Well, you've got to be in all the same situations with that
right,
question.
right.
And you're going to get triggered just
Yeah,
like you always were.
yeah.
So shame and guilt, like you with your family. You need to experience the feeling and all the stories because the stories are what create the feeling. The way Ramana put it, they're not emotions, they're thoughts masquerading as feelings. Anxiety, doubt, shame, guilt. We think that's the emotional range. That's all a mental structure, the matrix. It's a mind conclusion.
Yeah.
But the only way you're going to know that is to meet the mind conclusion and doubt it. Instead of yourself and life, doubt the story you're telling yourself about yourself and life. So that starts to clarify the motivation. It de-energizes the old motivation. The
It
need to,
unravels it.
yeah, gradually the fear behind trying to make sure everything fits your picture so that you can feel safe. You get less and less energy behind that. But it's because it's all based on an assumption that you need to be that way. Because we have that, we operate from that assumption, we never get to experience directly that we didn't. It's not what we thought. I'm afraid of heights, so therefore I won't go parachuting
Right.
because dot dot dot. But maybe the truth of who you are would love to do that.
Yeah.
Now, you're going to have to parachute a lot before you connect to that. So you're going to have to experience the feeling and all the stories. You're going to scream all the way to the bottom for a while until eventually you're over it because you experienced directly enough that it's not what you thought. In fact, not only is it not what you thought, it's the exact opposite. So that motivation, it's a crude example of what I'm saying. You've got to experience directly in each living moment that it isn't what you think. But your mind's going to be screaming at you, and that's the only voice you've ever heard. So you're going to be phoning it in that there's an alternative experience. So that motivation, now your motivation for the truth, I want to know what the truth is. That's the authentic self. That's the connection to the authentic self and the authentic experience, what you're really experiencing.
So are you saying seekers are living the truth of who they are? Because
Well,
sometimes I think there's a level of thrill seekers that are absolutely burying the truth of who they are with the thrills they're
yeah,
seeking.
again, it's not in form.
There's no form, right? We're
And
we're
that,
we're s- we're so addicted to time informing, and God's like, oh, poo poo on your time informing. You're so,
it's,
or your
yeah.
form and timing. You're so funny.
So that's a classic example. For one person, the same action is about reinforcing the ego that controls. For another person,
Yeah.
is the exact opposite. You can't put a formula on it.
No.
And again, that's why the path of self-inquiry is the only way to know. If you're comparing yourself to other people for what's right and what's wrong, you're just doing the same old problem. Spirituality is full of this And it's a stage everyone's got to go through. It's full of this problematic way of thinking. You got to edit out the problem, and that's the solution. But that's the problem, editing, what God called the editor. Editing life and yourself to match an expectation of what everything should be is the exact problem. And you can do it in the corporate world and you can do it in the spiritual world. It's the same thing. So how do you get through that? And again, the Arcturians, the way they showed it to me, we're born children, we're born whole. There is no problem. We are pure and life is pure and there's no conflict at all. That's the natural state. Then we're put through a conditioning process by people who can't stand that, because if they went from where they are now to that life, they'd have to go through fear to get there. So you're pointing at them saying, you have a problem, you have a problem. The pure energy signature of children. And getting a handle on life means balancing either side. Your mind just wants to play around and get it wrong and make mistakes so it knows, like riding a bike, where balance is. To an adult who has to get it right, that looks wrong. They've got to control the child's life. We receive that as, I don't have faith in your ability to meet life. So we doubt ourselves. It reinforces continually that we should doubt ourselves. That's why the Nazarene said, give me a child till they're 9, I'll show you the man. Masculine principle. So we're undoing that process. So again, it means meeting the
Messy.
feeling.
It's
But,
messy.
but your version of that is unique to you, and the only way to connect to it directly is to let yourself go through it in and let it come to you. What's Katie's version of coming back to the truth of who you are? It's not exactly the same as mine, but in essence, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing. Yeah. I
It
do
just
see
looks
that.
different.
Yeah, it looks different. It's the same problem dressed in different clothes. Yeah, you've said that for years. We are all a microcosm of,
Well, that's right. Sorry, I got the sidetrack, but yeah, what the Arcturians described it as, you're born whole. In other words, being, pure beingness. What Ramana Maharshi called isness itself. The fact that you exist, you are. So being, and life is, and you are. Then you put through this conditioning process. It's not about who, it's about what you do. You've got to do something to be someone that is worthy of being in this world the right way. So you leave yourself, pure beingness, and you go into doing. It's all about, you form your
yeah,
identity around, I am successful. And as people react to that in very different ways, some people succeed all the way to the top to be someone. Some people are good at that. Some people aren't. They're potentially personality types. So you fail, but it's all about doing. Either you're really good at it or you're really bad at it. But either way, that's it, doingness. Then you hit the wall like all of us. You run out of road because it doesn't work. And eventually you can't kid yourself that you're happy, because you're not. Doesn't matter how far you go. Then you flip to the other side. You recognize you've lost yourself, you've lost your way, you don't know what to do next. Like, I don't know what to do. So you you're asking the truth, essentially you want to know what reality. So you got to go through doing, being. You want to find yourself. So you used to doing stuff about things. So you want to do something about coming back to who you are. And that's as it should be. It's about deprogramming that whole way of being. Two sides of the same coin. That it's the external world. You've got to do something, and you go
yeah.
to a workshop, and you get it in the hall, in the workshop,
Mm,
and your mind, in other words, says, "Oh yeah, that's the answer." But it's the ego that controls. You've done it, great, problem solved. Then you go back
yeah.
to life, and
And then
everyone's
there's no
pretending.
problem solved.
Get
It's
it
a
out the
very
dark.
it's a short-term
Yeah.
thing. I've often said I wish my doing being looked a little more like obsessive exercise than napping or shopping or eating, right? I'm
Yeah,
like,
which is
could
another thing
I have a
about
little
getting.
more of the exercise as my doing away this
Yeah,
nonsense?
which is just another version of get it right. So you gotta, and you want to get it done, like, oh, enough already. And so we're all in this situation. Doing, being is tough in that way because we just want to get there. But one of the things Ramana said is, it's not a destination, it's a way of life. So what does that mean? Eventually you hit the wall with spirituality, and a lot of people are hitting that wall in a way that's never happened in human history before. at street level. And this question, okay, that doesn't work either. Well, what works? Coming back to being pure being. It doesn't matter what your mind tells you. You already are. It already is.
That street level comment you just said reminded me of, like, so at street level, this awakening is happening like a snowball down a hill, right? And
Mhm.
so it's happening at street level. And I got a direct message on Instagram, somebody telling me, kill yourself already. It's been months.
Yeah.
And you and I talked about it and said, well, maybe it was a bot farm or whatever. And I had said, well, why would they be bothering with someone with a small audience? Like just some girl, some woman sharing her shit. Like, why would, if it were a bot, if it was an intentional like attack? And you said, well, this whole movement is street level at this point. Like they know they're not, it's, they gotta go at you at the knees. They gotta go at you at all, right?
Mm.
So I'm
The-
sorry if that's a big segue from what you were talking about, but this this whole movement's happening. It's just not happening fast enough for me.
well, I mean, that's the thing. Street level is what's never happened before. And it's the average person. The mob rule is,
I
they
couldn't be more average if I tried. Holy crap, if I can wake up, anybody can wake up.
right. Now,
Sorry,
that's the
go
thing
on.
with everybody around. Just the
Mob rule, you were
the
saying. I'm
mob
sorry.
rule, yeah. So controlling the narrative, by the way, those are the interferences, the way God described them. A group, human, ET, all the way up to the one that fell, which is an intention. So it's like it's the macrocosmic version of the ego that controls within us, trying to maintain power, being the source of who we are. So out there, that program, the element responsible for this controlled narrative and programming are throwing everything they can to stop the shift that's happening in the mob rule, the reactionaryism, problem, reaction, solution. Take control of the narrative, generate problem, reaction, solution, the solution being centralization of power. And they've been gradually building up a totalitarianistic system which is at the last stage since the Roman Empire. But it's been going on since the fall of Atlantis, but the final phase, the so-called fourth beast, has been happening since the Roman Empire. Corporations are aligned with admiralty law, the high seas. So that's all coming to a head. Now, what's the enemy of their plan? Average person turning around and saying no,
Yeah.
because we're the power. Without
Yeah.
us believing in it, it doesn't exist, and they know that. So they're throwing everything they can at us to stop us. Hit the jugular. For you, but it's getting more and more obvious. It's
Oh my
getting more.
goodness, it's getting more and more obvious.
I mean,
Yeah.
what a, firstly, what a terrible thing to say to somebody. And where are they really coming from? There's a question there in you, like if that had happened to you 5 years ago, how would you have felt?
Oh,
Hmm.
I would have felt absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
Now I was just like, there was a twinge of ouch. And then, oh, let me share this with my friends. Somebody is wishing death upon me.
And here
Like,
we are talking about it, like seeing it for what it is.
seeing it for what it is. Right.
Now
Right.
that um, the amount of energy, emotional energy, creative energy that's being pulled out of the same old paradigm is increasing exponentially, and it needs that energy to operate. Now, the faster that happens, the more they're trying to keep their plan alive. The faster that happens, the more obvious it gets, the faster we wake up. Now, that's what's going to play out over the next year and a half. It's going to show up in the physical, just like all of you guys on this call. You've been going through a process that you really don't even understand, subconsciously rearranged, so that you're at just the right point that your conscious mind can start to put two and two together. just at the right same point where the control narrative is starting to be exposed globally for everybody. Now that means, well, what is it controlling and what's the truth? What are they
Yeah.
editing out of our awareness? Now
Hmm.
that information is starting to pop up above the surface in a way it never has before,
Hmm.
which is connecting to your paradigm rearrangement that you didn't even know was there yet.
You're right.
So little bits of information that come from the big picture, or you start to see what's playing out in the world, is like, oh, wow. Because you've got these two elements without a gap, with a gap between them, let's say, two experiences that you can't put together yet. Now this third element comes in, which is the control narrative undoing out there. Suddenly things start to connect. The Arcturians describe this process we're about to go through, or we are going through, as the great coming together and the great falling apart. So as the control narrative, and COVID's what does it, eventually it's everything, but let's say COVID's the catalyst. As that starts to unravel, it makes gaps for the truth and a willingness for people to ask the question on a global level, which means that the people at the top end of town who have been waiting for this moment because they've been there since Atlantis can actually answer the question. Because now there's a question. The information isn't the problem. It's the willingness to receive it. There are too many people now who are not only willing, they're able. And that's going to accelerate things exponentially in a way that's never happened before in the history of the human.
Exactly. In the history of the human race, exactly, because so many in the spiritual world don't understand this, and this is where I go butt heads with them, is that we are all one. I
Mhm.
don't care how cliche it sounds, I don't care how overused it is. If we are all one, we're all going that direction. Like you said in 1997, 100th monkey, like that many, everyone's got to go along now.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
like, but so it is ground level that they're attacking. It is grassroots that's it's building up from with all of us because they their strategy is divide and conquer, divide
Yeah.
and conquer, divide and conquer in
Mhm.
every single element. That's why, not to bring this up or cause any division here, I'm just stating a news article that I shared with my friends recently that Harvard hired a temporary 2025-2026 person, entertainer, drag queen, goes by the stage name of Lahora Vagistan. This isn't a joke. To be guest teacher of gender studies. Okay, with drag queens, okay, with, all of it. Lahora Vagistan is a little off putting, but Harvard University, like, you can't tell me there's a little bit of a, I don't know,
Mm. An
or a
agenda.
lot bit of an agenda, a lot bit
Big.
of an agenda, big,
Massive.
big, big, massive.
Oh,
And
huge.
I'm not really taking sides on any of the whole thing. It was just so loud to me. Look, it was
Again,
so
it's
obvious.
it's the motivation behind it that's critical to see. Because again, those are the interference and masters at making themselves look like the change. So we've
Yeah.
never really been able to look past it. The rise of Christianity is a classic example out of the Roman Empire. They completely distorted the narrative around the Nazarene and used that as a weapon against us. But we didn't see that.
No,
Now we
no.
will be. We
Now,
will
yeah, now we are. Now everybody will.
Yeah,
So then Chase asks, can you elaborate on how we remove our energy from the existing paradigm? In particular, what do we need to know about admiralty law versus common law? How can we start living in a truly sovereign way?
sure. Great question. Well, firstly, the question, what's the real truth? At a level that you've never asked it before, which is the entire your entire existence. Everyone on this call, at a certain level, you've run out of road. So, well, what's the real truth? If you're at the point where where you look, all you see is the thing that you want to transform in your life, then that's a great place to be. If you've got that, if you're at that point, you've got this question, okay, well, what's the truth? Then nothing can survive, no distortion can survive the
Can
light of
touch
that
you.
question.
Right,
Well,
right. Nothing can
that,
touch you. Like Anne says, when we're watching television and we see the programming. So just for
yeah,
to
exactly.
say something to Chase, basically, is removing your energy from it,
Yeah.
not being reactionary, is that you've said that to me a million times. Doing nothing is doing more than you can ever imagine,
Because you're
which
not
is
doing
the
the same old.
opposite, because you're not doing the same old, you're not reacting to this, you're not reacting to that. So it's the opposite of what we've been conditioned
Hmm.
in our society. So
Yeah.
my pulling back my energy from voting or medicine or education or whatever, my pulling my energy back and keeping it with myself is not cold and heartless and mean. It is actually upending the narrative.
Yeah.
It's
But
upending the agenda. Yeah.
see, it's going to trigger you to feel that way about it, which is what's always stopped you. Now, that's the thing about your motivations, your protection. The reason you've stopped, that you're not doing anything, is because you're trying to get clear about the truth. That's a whole other thing to avoiding
Right.
being put in situations that will bring you to the truth. It looks the same, but
Sure.
it's a
Sure.
whole different
But it's
thing.
actually
So
looking for the truth in an authentic way. Your
that's right.
motivation
So
is your protection in all things.
it'll bring up the feeling and the story that creates the feeling. The feeling doesn't create the story creates the feeling. That's the thing. Getting it. That's why Tom said we are. God said we are reversing the inversion with you. We see things the wrong way around.
Yeah.
We think what we're looking at is happening. What we're experiencing is happening subconsciously because of us. But it's proving to us why we're wrong, let's say. But it's really the other way around. We're seeing it that way because we already judged ourselves. As what you judge, you become. We judge ourselves as wrong when we're young. We build up belief system after belief system that reinforces that because the distortion that creates in us reflects back to us. It's that belief that creates all these experiences. We filter everything through that belief and it just keeps reinforcing itself. So to go against that means going against all your judgments. For some people, they're workaholics. They think they're doing the right thing and they hit the wall. Well, they've got to do the opposite, but everything in them is telling them they're being lazy or whatever. For other people, it's the other way around. So that's why there's no formula. But Chase's question, how I'm
Well,
just
the sovereign. See, I have this question too, as does my mother. The admiralty law versus common law. That
right.
whole thing. There are so many
Mhm.
people coaching how to do that and remove yourself from the matrix, and you're no longer subject to taxes, and you're no longer a citizen because basically our birth certificate is our signature of slavery, and our social
Mhm.
security numbers. Everything is a lie. So I have this big question, and I don't think we have the time for it, but that's a good question.
Yeah, okay. Well, common law, the law of the land, and like I said, the frequency of the planet, the Schumann resonance, and the frequency of the human body are the only two physical structures on the planet that have the same frequency. And like I said, that's common to all self-aware life throughout the universe. We come from the planet. Like physically, we come from the planet. So whatever happens to the planet is reflected in our body. So that common law is like the sacred masculine structure of civilization that agrees with that reality. The law of the high seas disconnects us from the land. So the whole motivation behind those of the interference is to get us to disconnect through free will from our true nature. So the legal system um, is the opposite of the sacred masculine of civilization. It's a system of slavery. The corporate system is a privately owned self-interest group. When you put the two together um, and give your life to it, you've separated civilization from its true nature. Now, the decision, the human race, this is what we've been steered to through COVID. The decision of the human race to let that plan complete is the free will choice to sever our heart connection to the universe. It's put that choice into a physical form that we can make so that free will has to be honored. So That's someone asked God, what are they trying to achieve? He said, they're looking for a way to make the transition with you. So the one that fell is like the ego that controls. It's an idea about who you are. It can't survive the truth of who you are. It ceases to exist. It lets you go because it was never true. The one that fell is the ultimate expression of that. So the human race coming back to 5D from 3D removes the one that fell's ability to operate this way forever
Yep.
throughout
Yep.
the
Yep.
universe.
So a lot of the
So,
communities we belong to, Chase and I, throughout the universe. Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt that because that's a big thing. Because I've explained that to many people now that us, they, those of the interference, inability to do this to us, full stop, removes the shackles of all the civilizations that this was done to. So that's why
mhm.
all eyes are on Earth, and that's a very exciting part. But I can't even remember where I was going with that.
With
Maybe
Chase.
that was it. Well, Chase's question, admiralty law and common law, and what you're saying, communities Chase and I belong in, and other people here and I belong in, have people or courses dedicated to removing yourself from the system. And my mother
Mhm.
and I have always been kind of interested. We've attended all the free webinars, but as soon as somebody starts talking about it, we just like deer in headlights. We're like, oh my God, what did he even say? And some of them can cost like $6,000, some of them can cost $15,000. Then you don't any for the rest of your life pay tax, like all of these things. But the thing that sits with me with why we haven't done it, because we could, is I really think this is all going to come out in the wash. I think
Absolutely.
it's going to take care of itself,
Mhm.
and I don't need to worry about
Yep.
it. That's one place my faith is very strong, and that is faith in God, an element of it. But that it's totally coming out in the wash. I don't have to do that.
That's right. See, that's the thing. That's the law of the high seas. It's based on what happened post Atlantis. There was a group, I can't remember the name of them now. They were basically a pirate raiding group. They're in a big problem in the ancient world. They caused the collapse of Egypt, Rome, like a lot of elements. But they're the those of the interference. It's the same group. So navies have been here. The British Navy, because it's fluid. It's not locked into a certain place in the world.
Right.
It's not because they ultimately they aren't of this planet. Those are the interference come from outside this planet, and the human element obviously is from here. But they needed to distort enough people to their way of being post from Atlantis, which is what caused that, just what God called the destruction. So the navies have always been used. So the law of the high seas, it's fluid. It's not of the planet necessarily. It you can't pin it down. It can be anywhere. It can be anywhere. There's no sort of core resonant frequency. The frequency comes from the planet. Now that frequency is translated into lots of forms of frequency by water, living water. But the interference is trying to get control. So by putting that static into water, it distorts the frequency. So it's a lot easier to distort the frequency when you're not of this planet, when you're looking at water, than it is of the planet. To do that, you need the self-aware life with the same frequency to use free will to go against itself.
Yep.
So
Yep.
they're
Exactly what we
coming,
talked about at the beginning of the show. My
yeah,
wanting to die. That's exactly what they
yeah,
want. Go against
exactly what they
yourself
want.
by your own free will.
Yeah.
I'll
So
never
that's the
do
whole
it.
thing.
I'll never do
That's,
it, just so everybody knows I won't do it.
yeah, good. Well, that's what the fourth beast, the corporate side, the Roman Empire being Vatican City being the first corporation. That's what it was designed to do: is create a system where they could control how we move through life, so that they could turn the heat up and break our spirit at this point in history, and use the fear that they've controlled narrative through media. They've sewn in a whole lot of reactionaryism. Like we've got a whole lot of pictures in our mind about what what's playing out that cause us to be reactionary. So they play on that fear, crashing civilization, pushing us to breaking our spirit. Tom, God said they've never been able to break your human spirit. So COVID is about doing that. And then the civilization collapses to a certain point, and we say yes to the solution. Remember, problem, reaction, solution. What is the solution? Corporations buy up all of the countries because they're broke.
Wait a minute. I have a question. They've never been able to break your human spirit. And the other one is you insist you have a human nature.
Yeah,
So what is it?
they go together.
Okay.
Yeah, well, spirit is fifth dimension. The fifth dimension is
Okay.
pure consciousness. So,
Sorry, you
uh,
were probably going to get somewhere really good and I just interrupted you. I've always had that question. They've never been able to break your human spirit,
hmm,
and yet you
what are they
insist
trying
you
to
have
do?
a human nature.
They're trying to break our heart connection to the universe. What exemplifies that? The fifth dimension. That's why God gave the name in this point in history, Tom, spokesman for the Council of Nine. So the masculine principle is the one that speaks. It's the mind. So that's why it's not God isn't a male or a female. That it's beyond that. But there's a reason why Tom was given. So that letter T, the cross part is the dimensions. This this upright
Center
is
point?
coming. It's coming from what physics calls 0 point or absolute zero, which is beyond space and time. Black holes, kind of, you can't. There's nothing. You can't look at it, but everything comes from it. So what happens from just like stars have a black hole at the center and all light comes out. It's the same thing. So 0 point, what comes out is white light. At the top is the fifth dimension. So this what happens in physics is that white light fractalizes into your glasses, all the colors of the rainbow. But also you can remember the dimensions don't go from dimension one to dimension nine and then repeat. They start at dimension five, spirit consciousness, and move out into feminine masculine. So the three physical dimensions and the fourth dimension of time are the masculine principle. The other dimensions on the right are the feminine principle.
Are
So that's
there 9 dimensions only, or is that
no, well, the infinite
like
universe is
infinite?
based on nine
Exactly. Okay.
principles.
Okay.
So all it is, nine. Tom, spokesman for the Council of Nine, is a description for the universe, how it originates, but also us. We are five dimensional. So, so the fifth dimension of soul or spirit, then the four physical dimensions that create the body, what Tom called the light space vehicle, that we inhabit, we get into to have this life in the illusion of separation. That's as it should be. So we emanate from the heart, which the mind can't describe. It's beyond our comprehension. It, but it can actually describe each living moment. That's the mind's job, to discern the experience we're having. Yeah, so breaking our spirit is about getting us to stop living our heart connection, our soul.
Which brings me back to last week's question from Chase about our family and friends being those of the interference, being
Yeah.
the inversion. And unbeknownst to them, they are.
Hmm.
And so was I
Yeah,
until I could see. And
that's the
so
thing. I
were
mean,
all of us until we could see.
yeah, well, another thing God said is what is important is to act without us acting from the belief that that's reality and making sure everybody agrees with it can't exist. They need us to believe it. And that's what's happening at street level. Less and less people are believing in it. They don't know
Believing
what
it.
else to believe in. However,
Right.
disillusionment, Ramanar said, disillusionment is the final state of mind. Remember, it's not the matrix is a mental construct. The final state of being, doing, and doing being, mental structure, is disillusionment with everything.
Yeah.
Spirituality, the the opposite of spirituality, is all the same thing.
Everything.
So many people are at that
Everything.
point now. That's right.
Yeah.
So many people are at that
It's
point now.
It's so funny. The last conversation I had with my sister, I did say to her, I had something happen to me. I know things. Things are coming. And she was like, I know, and I'm taking care of my family. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, but I know things. I could give you some relief. I could help you, and never got any questions or
Well,
anything.
that'll start to change. That will start to change as the reality. And again, COVID exposes the controlled narrative on a scale that's never happened before. Even your parents and family and cousins and all the people that are
Yeah,
conduits for, Mr. Smith and the agents in the Matrix represent conditioning. They're just conduits for the
yeah,
conditioning, the mind control. Their ability to get away with that is gonna break down as COVID is exposed as a lie. Now, the scale of it, every government, every news agency, so the mainstream media, the controlled narrative being exposed to everybody, and everyone, like the Arcturians showing me, as I said, everyone around the world simultaneously in their own sense of being, saying, if they lied about that, what else have they lied about? Inherent in that is there is a they with an agenda, and everything we think we know is part of that agenda. So, what's the
yeah,
truth?
yeah,
Everyone's going to be at that point whether they want to be or not. What God said is it's better for you. This transition is happening. He said it's better for you if you choose it. That's it. If you choose it, it's great coming together. Now, we've all paid a price. It's been hell, but we did the right thing because
yeah.
disillusionment, all of our subconscious has been rearranged so that we can receive what's coming in the right spirit. Great coming together. It's going to click, paradigm shift. For everyone else, that exact same catalyst is going to destroy their paradigm first.
So,
Then they'll be
yeah,
able to hear.
then they'll be able to
Now,
receive it and
that's
see it
the
as the joyous thing that it
right.
is.
But that's the split, the so-called split earth. A lot of
The
people don't.
so-called split. It's not a real split.
Again, a lot of people in the spiritual community and the alternative movement around this don't really fully grasp what they're experiencing. But the human race is a single entity, and it's all of us all together. It's an ocean with waves.
Everything is
That
a single
you
entity.
can't
This entire thing is a
you
single
can't
entity.
you can't transition without the human race transitioning. The human race can't transition without you transitioning. Everyone will transition. You're either going to go the easy way or the hard way. That's it. So there's two versions of the experience. That's it. That's the split. But it's the same point. We end up at the same point, and that process is going to start playing out in a major way. The Pleiadians describe the period that's coming to an end in about the middle of 2026 that started a year ago, a bit over a year ago. They called it the frequency wars. So there's a lot of technology from those of the interference designed to stop this rising frequency affecting our body, to amplify reactionaryism and anger. There's things you can do with the brain and frequency, 5G,
Yeah,
etc., that are designed to make it as hard as possible for us
yeah.
to connect with this transition. But what's the frequency coming the other way? It's a war, so it implies there's two forces fighting each other. Well, what's the frequency coming the other way? This frequency shift that's bringing us up into 5D, that can't be stopped because we chose it via free will to wake up to the truth. That's why it's playing out the way it is. Their ability to block that is going to break down big time next year. Now that is corresponding with the breakdown of the control narrative.
Is
So
that is so the frequency wars, is that related to Gates wanting to block out the sun and
all of it,
so-called climate
all of
change?
it.
It's all related. It's all
Yeah.
connected. It's all the same
Why do they
fucking
want to
thing.
block out the sun? Because the sun is the engine room behind the frequency
Yeah,
shift.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
the sun's frequency is rising
Oh,
like through the roof.
quick story. Outside, we have this lovely neighbor, James, who lives in a building on the corner, and he goes for walks, and my mom gives him flowers and she gives him clippings from her plants, and he's really sweet. Older gentleman, used to live in Manhattan, very asleep, but lovely, whatever, who cares?
Yeah.
So I saw him today completely bandaged, his whole head is bandaged. And I'm like, James, what happened? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, your head. He's like, oh, he's like, melanoma. He's like, from sitting in the sun. I said, I think it's the sunscreen. I don't think the sun did that to you at all. He's like, huh. I'm like, he didn't fight with me. He just was like, huh. It
Mm.
was so cool.
Interesting. I think you're going to find that with a lot more people. A lot more people have
Yeah.
got questions they haven't even admitted to themselves yet. Because, again, we grow up, we're very unsure of ourselves. We've had to play the game everybody else seems to be playing. So to admit you've got questions about that game, it means going against the other school kids, the cool kids. There's a
There,
deep
there,
programming against it.
there's a big program against it, and you can look at the studies. Sunscreen or skin cancer didn't exist until sunscreen existed. Like, come on. Like, there's so many things in the agenda that when you're awake and you have the eyes to see, you go, how did I even believe that? How did I even, like, it's so obvious now. It's so obvious. Like the Harvard thing with Lahora Vagistan. Like it's so obvious, but 10 years ago, Katie would have been like, yeah, Lahora, right? But it's like, it's also seeing it so clearly now, all of that. It's like, oh my God, the compassion comes in droves because you realize the trillions and trillions of dollars behind it. And if you're
Mm.
the one walking against everybody else, like the Nazarene did, walking that, the iconic fish against the stream,
Yeah.
like no wonder you believed it. You didn't really believe it. You just went along to fit in.
Yeah,
I
you
just
had
went
to.
along to, yeah, you have to, or you're gonna get eaten alive,
That's the
kind of
feeling,
thing.
yeah. So to admit that you've got doubts, there's a process just right there.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're talking people that a layer of society and people that have never had any experience like that before. They've never, some people are naturally more on the spiritual side of things. They tend to be the ones who don't survive the inversion, the way it operates, their personality types, more sensitive and open. That's a good thing, not a bad thing.
Right.
If we, so we've all tended to wake up earlier, but and that group has been the mob rule throughout history. That's what's changing. That's what's never happened before. Ordinary people who've never questioned anything before, middle class, whatever. They've never had any reason to, and they just look at people like that as weirdos, whatever. Um, it's that element in our society that's being the rug's getting ripped out from under them, and it's increasing more and more. That's going to get more and more intense next year. But as soon as this sort of frequency warfare thing diminishes,
Yeah.
our connection to being able to stop and think clearly, getting the reactionaryism out of the way, etc., that starts to come back. So putting two and two together, one thing they've been really good at is stopping us looking at a line of continuity. Like, okay, so since the Industrial Revolution, we've supposedly advanced, but have we? Or what have we lost? So we never really get a chance to review because it's all broken up by the way Napoleon put it, one of the worst I was told, the victor writes the history. So they keep on rewriting and pushing away the ability for us to connect the dots. Oh, hang on. Since since the apothecary healthcare system was destroyed at the turn of the 1900s and 20th century and replaced with allopathic medicine, we've become way sicker. We don't understand what reality was like for people before that happened. Now, they control the narrative, they control history,
And
they control
and they say it
academia
only takes like one generation or two generations to wipe out
to
the
forget.
memory of the
Yeah.
history. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the generation gap is used big time. Oh, you're
Big
just
time.
old, so I don't have to listen to what you say,
Yeah,
that kind of thing. So we never get a chance to kind of look at, okay, what have we really gained and what have we really lost and why? Now that's something that the control narrative collapsing, the frequency technology being removed, that's something that removes the problem with. We start to be able to think more clearly and speak more clearly. The way the Palladians put it, you'll finally be able to listen, you'll probably finally be able to see and hear each other.
yeah.
Someone asked them, well,
The
what's the net
brain
result on the
talk.
other side of the frequency was? And they said, you'll finally be able to see and hear each other.
Yeah,
Because, like you said before, all these people in your life, you've got compassion for them because they're just dealing with the same problem you've been dealing with, and you know how far away from yourself that takes you.
yeah.
However, you're also angry and pissed off with them and reacting with them. So you got both going on. But we
Don't
get
we
to a point
all?
with all of this, where the reactionaryism stops being so amplified that we can actually really connect with that reality. Like the Arcturians told me in COVID, say to yourself whenever you're in these moments of conflict with people, love and light, brother, you are not the enemy. So recognizing we were never, Muslims
No,
and Christians
we're
were never the
never the
problem.
enemy. We are not the enemy. Not even the puppets that are being
Yeah,
puppeteered. They're not
that's
the
it.
enemy. It's bigger than that. It's
Catholics, Christians,
it's so
Catholics,
funny.
Protestants.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
You
so
know,
funny.
that was never the issue.
As soon as I'm cut off in traffic, it's the first thing I say,
Yeah,
love and light, brother,
exactly.
sister. You are not the
Not
enemy.
the enemy, yeah, despite the fact that I'm so annoyed with you right now. And that's the thing. We recognize for the first time in history that we've all had the same problem. And it's something we've never seen before as a race. And there it is over there.
And it's not
So we
us.
we
But
finally
it
have
is.
compassion for each other. Now, the information about who they are, where they are, what they've been doing, how it relates to our thinking, and how that has pulled us out of ourselves. Psychological warfare is based on, and they know this, the victims become perpetrators. So you go from pure being, love, loving everything and everyone as it is. There's no
Yeah,
question about it. To
yeah.
do it, being doing. So it's all about being someone, and
Well,
that's where so much of the conflict is put in.
yes, yes, yes. And so, and actually addresses multiple of Chase's questions, around how can we invite ET, how can we make ourselves available, or can we call out, and what do we do about admiralty law and common law?
Mm.
Like for me, I can't do any of that. I don't want to do any of that. It's like the detoxing, all the Sheila Jeet and everything. None of it's bad. All of this is a bridge to where we're all getting
Yeah,
anyway. So
that's the thing.
I'm trying to stay alive right now. I'm trying to
Mm.
reclaim the joy of life. So while admiralty law and all that, and detox and parasites and frequency, they're on my radar. I've taken some measures, but they cannot take me over. I cannot lose sleep over what I need to do because I'm just trying to stay alive right now.
Right. And you're afraid you won't be able to. There's a level of how fear has taken hold in our life that we aren't even aware of.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know
we've
it.
pushed it back
Shut
so
up.
long ago. Well, no, I mean me,
I
you,
know.
everyone, right? Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's again, this is what's happening. The deprogramming is, fear is an idea about something. So what's again an indirect experience, or what's the truth about that something? When you directly experience that there's nothing to be afraid of, you do have what it takes to meet life, and life is worth meeting no matter what. When you really connect directly with that, fear has no role because it's really just an idea about what something is. When you really experience the reality of it, that idea can't exist. It doesn't, as Ramana said, you can't let it go. All you can do is be willing to see it and it will let you go because it was never true. Well, what is
Yep.
true? As soon as you see as soon as you get to know someone, you realize your assumptions about them were never true. Well, what happens to the
No.
assumptions? They evaporate like mirages because that's all they ever were. You don't
Yep.
even have to do anything about them. You've
Yep.
just got to look at the space where the truth is, knowing that there is a truth, the absolute reality, even though you can't see it, just keep looking at that space, which is the question, what's the truth? And
Yeah.
only one thing can happen. The answer will come.
Yeah.
Well, ask and you shall receive. That's it.
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
called the body mind a receiver.
It's funny who I surround myself with life-wise, not in the physical mostly, but like on the phone or whatever, like having a conversation. If we're discussing a particular teacher or someone we both mutually know or something like that, and we're criticizing, there's still that element of like we're being critical, but having the conversation with someone like you or Roseanne or Lindsay or Mike or Ann or whomever is like very different because it's not the gossipy, mean-hearted. It's the acknowledging the initial emotion or feeling or thought about someone or something, and then hashing it out to find the truth.
Hmm.
Like that's just what's wonderful with the new people in our world. The
Yeah.
the the awakened heart-centered, like, because we're going from here to here, from this being in control to this being in control. And you can feel it in the conversations. Like it can start gossipy, but then like through it, you're like, no, 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 no. It's not what I mean. Your motivation is your
Mm.
protection in all things. You're just looking for the truth.
That's the thing. And again, getting back to our families and society and this feeling of separation from everything and having to play a certain game, getting free of that.
Yep.
What's been driving it? Well, fear, fundamentally, doubt and fear.
Yep.
Self-doubt is fear. Fear of the unknown is fear. It's all fear. Um, the way Ramana put it, the only way to know fear isn't real is to let it come and get you. And that's what happens when you ask the truth. That's what happens when you ask for help is thank you, God, for taking me where I did not want to go so that I can realize that it wasn't what I thought it was. So the desire not to go there, like the parachute, I love parachuting. What the hell was I thinking? Or whatever your version
Sure,
is.
whatever your version
The,
is. Yeah, yeah.
the joy of
You
life so often is in a whole theater of life that we avoid. It's weird how it works.
They're
So
taking us across the valley we should not have crossed. Well, I would
that's what
like them to take us through the valley faster.
well, that's what God said. We are bringing you back across. He said of this process that's actually playing out right now. We are reversing the inversion with you. Not we might if you get it right. This is happening. We are reversing the inversion with you. That's what's happening right now.
Right now.
He said, we are bringing you back across the valley
We
you
just
should
gotta
not have
hold
crossed.
on. We just gotta
What
hold
Ramana
on.
described as the valley of the mind, the matrix. It happens. We crossed the valley. In other words, our attention went from coming from the heart through the mind to what we're aware of, to getting the mind in front of the heart, pushing
Yeah,
sorry, pushing our heart out of the way and being the only source. Thought isn't consciousness.
right.
So our belief system now runs the show. So that's why he said reversing the inversion with our sense of self, getting the heart, our intuitive sense when we know when things are off, when we know when someone's not being authentic. When you know your own mind, you know all minds, coming back to getting clear, okay, what's the truth here? Then you'll be able to see everything for what it is actually.
Yep.
The
Yep.
thing is, the only way to do that is to let go of control. So your attention comes out of fear. The mind conclusion, the definition, that person's wrong because la la la. This situation shouldn't happen because blah blah blah. The solution to the political problem over there is la la la. Then go, hang on a minute, I'm doing it again. Do I really know that's true? How could I know that's true? I don't know that's true. That's the truth. So you bring your attention out of the story, which grabs your attention and runs off to this whole false world that we've just automatically assumed as reality. Now we're going, no, hang on a minute. If that worked, I'd be happy, and I'm not. So you're bringing your attention out of the story and a mind conclusion back to that reality. I don't really know that's true. As soon as you do that, again, as I said, you release a lot of suppressed emotional energy, which is trapped by the belief system. As soon as you tell something it isn't what it is, and you're in a world which is everything is one, you separated a part of yourself from reality and locked it in time. So the definition takes love and wraps it up into something else. So that's constantly trying to come back up. It comes out as behavior patterns in kids and us, addictions, etc. It's constantly saying there's a problem. It's trying to point back at it. Instead, we get caught up in a story. So when you let go of control, you get brought back through time, essentially. It's important to go to a workshop. It's important to connect with Ramana Maharshi, David Deida, Bert
Byron
Hellinger,
Katie.
Byron Cade. It's important to connect with them. But the work happens when you forget.
Yeah.
You connect with it and go, wow, this is great. And then you let life happens again and you forget and you think, I'm not doing it right. It hasn't worked. I'm doing it again. The story. No, that's not true. Maybe this is how the help happens. Maybe I've just got to remember or reconnect with that truth in all these moments where I keep forgetting it. And you do that by asking, what's the real truth in this moment? Nothing will happen straight away. It's not going to match our expectations, but that question undoes darkness is an absence of light. Awareness, fear, ignorance. What's the real problem? As soon as you ask that question, no matter what situation you're in, it's all connected. It's all done by design. It's all deliberate. You can't control it. Recognizing letting go of control to reality and not letting your mind dictate terms. This is what it looks like.
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
the
Lindsay just said in the comments, my mind is my worst enemy. And it's like, it's so funny, the compassion and the love we can extend to everyone else, but doing it for ourselves, getting our own mind stories in check. Like, that's what's so much gold.
yeah,
Talking it about this with someone is
yes,
there, you're saying to them what you really need for you. I mean, so it's a total
turn it
give and
around,
take. Turn
flip it
it
around.
around. Turn it
All your
around.
negative. Yeah, that's one of the things that say Byron Katie says is yeah, judge your neighbor, go to town on them, describe them in as much detail of how wrong they are, and then turn it around and put your name in front.
Yeah.
Go through every single one and see if you can, and you meet that feeling that that gives you. You don't want to own that. Now, those judgments of yourself were never true, but the only way to know that is to let them be there because you think they are. Deep down in your subconscious, you believe that's you, but you've got to get away from it. Now, what that does, like I said, is it'll reflect back to you so that you can actually look at it. And if you got the right spirit, you can look at it properly, objectively. And that's where this system, the four pillars of the transition, as the Arcturians described it, which is David Deida, Ramana Maharshi's true north, so path of self-inquiry, getting clear of about who you are in any given moment, rather than thinking it's all out there and changing other people is going to fix it. Byron Katie, the belief system, challenging the story. Bert Hellinger, family system constellation work, the conditioning that we're given through our families, getting free of that. There's ways to actually meet this as you move through it, but fundamentally it happens in day-to-day life. And it happens bit by bit and you can't control it. And the
No.
way you let go of control is simply by asking, what's the real truth in this moment? Go to Christmas. When you're ready, when you've separated from society enough, you've gone in, that serves you to a point. It serves you to a point to kind of go through this sort of emotional subconscious process, which you've got to do alone. And at a certain point, um,
I got it. Yeah.
you'll be brought out, let's say, and then let all that reactionaryism and story be there. But you've got enough of how to meet that in a way that works, that you can be in those situations now, and actually they're the workshop. That's where the real workshop happens. It's in direct experience of what's happening right now in any
Yep.
moment, no matter what it looks like. It's
Yep.
all God bringing you back across. It's all the help we've asked for.
Yep. You
It's
told me
just
that
saying,
3 years ago when I was going on all the retreats I've done over the past 3 years since awakening, just like starving and grasping for some relief. You told me, go, go. It's the best thing you can do. You'll know why. You might not in a couple of years, but you'll know why. And I would go and I'd come home and I'm like, oh my God, why did I fucking do that? But at each one, there was a phrase or a person or an experience, just the tiniest thing that has
that's
forever shifted my trajectory and
mhm,
given me talk points,
mhm.
given me experience to talk
Mm.
about. That's it.
That's that's the paradigm shift.
Yeah.
It gives you a new element. It doesn't answer the question, but there's a role. Our expectation is that we go to this workshop or this teacher to get the problem fixed. And we might come away disappointed, but there'll be something about the experience that sticks that we know where to put. So we'll compartmentalize it, but it's there. And that process happens naturally. But in the end, you get to a point where you realize you don't have to go anywhere or ask anyone. You've got enough tools, if you like, and again, those
Yep.
four pillars will help that to
Yep.
actually meet the moment you're in right now. And a lot of the time, these workshops and you need to do something, being is about getting out of the feeling we're in right now and the
Yeah.
experience we're in now.
Not
But
going
it's
through it and living it, but
exactly
avoiding it.
avoiding it.
That's
But
why I
not
stopped doing them.
right, and nothing we connect to out there has any value unless this
It
moment is
right.
not what it
The
was never
living
what
moment.
we think. But you've got to be in the
Yeah.
situation and apply, phoning it in time after time, but apply these premise that this isn't what I think it is. What is it? What am I missing? And keep doing it. And you will get the answers. You won't be able to
For
put two and two together, but something shifts in you
for the
until it
first
starts to
year
click.
click. I know. For the first year after my awakening, before I met you, I would go on live coaching calls with Lori or live Q&As or something like that. And I always had questions. I always was like, then I met you. And I'm pretty sure I've told you this many times, but you have ruined me for everyone else. I'm like, if I have a question, I have a Gareth. I don't have questions for anybody else because the questions never, like, as soon as you and I, we don't even know how this started. This started one day on a financial phone conversation on a Zoom, and it catapulted from there. But my body, like, as overused as resonant is, my body resonated with what you said as truth. You have absolutely ruined me for all teachers out there.
Well, thanks. Thanks. I mean, look, I've gone through the same process. Really, I'm just
That's
sharing
why
what
you've
happened to
gone
me
through
when
it.
yeah, I'm exactly. And it is a way of life. It's not a destination, it's a way of life. I'm just, you know, there's a transition happening and this is how you meet it. And my life purpose, my soul purpose was designed in a specific way. So I would go through what
Somebody just said Arcturian GPT. Gareth, you're my Arcturian GPT. That's so clever. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, look,
Yeah.
that's and like I said to you, my job in your life is to make myself redundant. And I asked for help and I was taken through a process. And
No, I know.
now I'm sharing what was um,
Bestowed upon
asking shall
you.
receive. I wanted to know
Yeah.
what the hell was going on, and I started to, I just knew to let go of control because of this fifth dimensional thread I've had in my whole life. There's a golden thread. I just let go of control and let it come. I don't know what the problem is, but God does. And all I've got to do is just trust that everything I'm experiencing is part of the solution. And, I didn't have a lot in the way of that, which was the gift of having clear sight. Without that, I don't know what I would have done if I had that moment. I could have died without caring. I don't know what I would have done, but I knew I could ask for help, and I knew there was a reality to life that wasn't anything to do with that. That's why I was able to meet it the way I was. So I was given like an instruction manual to meet a transition that haven't even happened yet, so that I
Mm,
could live the process of being undone and put back together enough at the right time so that we could connect right when I needed to start talking about it. Like what
yeah.
was I going to say? I was still putting together what I'd lived through. That's why the Arcturians showed up. They needed to help me integrate enough of what I'd experienced, put two and two together and help me with that.
Yeah.
Standing back while I did it too, so that when we met, I could actually start speaking to you. And then over this last time we've been together, it's got better and easier for me because I've had to, you know, like you, I'm afraid of being myself like
Right, right,
everybody.
right, right.
And that's manifested in all sorts of different ways. So it's a symbiotic thing, and then we just spread by connecting to other people, and that's how it works.
Sorry, I'm giggling at the chat. Whoever KC33433 is, they're very funny.
What a great
Okay,
name, buddy.
so you punked me early on when Chase asked a question about admiralty law. I said, "Oh, I don't think we have the time for it." But here it is, noon where you are. Or one. It's one
One.
where you are. Don't you have
Hmm.
work?
I'm starting at 2,
Oh,
so
okay.
I
Okay,
do have
good.
to wind it up soon. But
Okay, okay. You didn't tell me that, so now I look like a liar to everybody. All narratives are BS. All narratives are absolute
yeah,
BS.
now,
And Mike says he appreciates all of the experiences he's had. His motivation for doing them at the time was to fix his unbroken self. And you know what, Mike? I think I do appreciate all of my experiences. It's just really hard right now when you're so sad. Yeah.
George
Yeah.
Snorri.
Yeah. George
What?
Snorri. Hey, 20 years ago, he was not quite as snory as he is now.
Oh, that's something that popped up yesterday is 5 years ago, a whole lot of YouTube channels were shut down.
Oh, yes.
And they've just all been reactivated. Apparently, Trump's done a deal with YouTube, and they've all been reactivated. So
Yeah.
the Arcturians told me that September, they called Slingshot, that we would not end the year in the same situation with which we began it. So we're starting to see the physical evidence of all the work that's been done in the background, just like we've been going through a subconscious rearrangement that we haven't been fully able to see. The big picture version of that, the system, what Tom God called the octopi that binds, this inverted civilization. There's been a lot going on under the surface, counter moves against those of the interference that people can't see. They control the narrative, so they keep it buried. Their ability to do that is going to break apart.
Yeah.
So that work's already been done. A new financial system's already been set up. There's a whole lot of stuff that's been set up so that this corporate takeover can't work.
Yeah.
They've been trapped by their own system. The problem with centralization of power is if you lose control of it, you're surrounded by it. And that's exactly what's happened.
Right.
So there are
What
elements.
was it the Arcturians or God said all that's been turned against you, weaponized against you, will be turned back against the user.
That's what the Arcturians told me. They
That's
said
right.
everything that's been taken from you will be given back, and everything that's been used against you will be turned back to the user. So that's what's happening because we're becoming aware of it. Instead of it working to enslave us, it's working to reveal them.
I get
And
happy
yeah,
about that. That's what gives me happiness.
they said all the lines of connection connecting them to you also connect you to them. So again, that's things like the mainstream media, all the ways they're trying to manipulate us through the economy, through political, blah blah blah. Our intention to wake up is it's like our light is connected there. If you call them darkness, which is an absence of light, our light is connected to them directly through all of these lines of manipulation. That's how they've lost control. So they're trapped in a system where our awareness is growing, the light is growing, and it's there's less and less room for dark, shadowy, for them to hide behind,
Yeah.
but also uh, all the lines of the frequency stuff. So again, our heart connection is going up. The frequency that we resonate at, we're becoming. God said of the human race, "You are the most physically dense race in the universe. The only race to have been shut down to 3D, the most physical race, and then come back up to 5D." Which is why this this what's happened with the human race can never happen again in the universe the way it happened here. So the one that fell can't operate the way that's always been there because the awareness of the full strategy and group has never fully been there to this degree. So now we're aware of it. There's nowhere else to go. There's nowhere else to hide. There's no dimension that's free of the awareness of how they operate. And we represent that. So the way it was put in Star Wars, the chosen ones chosen to bring balance back to the force, to the universe. So that distortion imbalance of the universe that was created by the one that fell on the nose of the interference is being corrected by what's happening here. So we wake up, we come back to 5D, but we're fully aware of how we got shut down in the first place. So all of us are personally going through our own belief system of how we got pulled into the matrix on an individual level. That's the best thing you can do to help the human race do the same thing. The best thing you can do is understand how you got hooked in and what it did. Like Ramana said, when you know your own mind, we're getting to know our own mind, our own belief system, what's true and what isn't. That's the best thing you can do is look path of self-inquiry, look at yourself and use what you see in the world around you as a way to get clearer and clearer and clearer about what you aren't and what you are. And again, there's ways to do that we'll
Yeah.
get more into.
We'll get more into that. Yeah. I do get tripped up. Comparison is a killer. Doubt is a killer. Like the path of self-inquiry is not for the faint of heart. I love it. I know myself. I'm absolutely going to be unfuckwithable shortly. In fact, on some level, I am now because I see it so clearly. I just don't know it, or I'm stuck in the story of the sadness. I don't know what's going on with that.
We need to get t-shirts printed up, unfuckwithable.
Unfuckwithable. I know, right? Um, but oh, I was gonna say something else, but I forgot what it was. But anyway, I'm great. I am grateful for all of it. But that's what I was saying. The comparison, the doubt, lack of faith, like all these things get in the way of, not get in the way, they kind of illuminate where you need to work on. Nothing
Yeah,
really gets in the way. Everything is an offering, everything is a gift. Yeah.
yeah. The one that's what the other thing the Arcturians showed me, which is coming up, and this renaissance that's on the other side. Just to answer Chase's question, they said they showed me removing the frequency warfare stuff, the psychological warfare stuff, getting some information and awareness there, bringing in some health technology that destroys the biological warfare effect,
Yeah.
that we'll be able to function in a way that we've never really experienced before, which means our ability to think clearly comes back, discernment. They showed me a domino effect where we'll realize that everything, we're free of something we didn't even fully understand we were caught up with. And that realization of this moment we're in now, oh my God, I'm free, I'm clear, I see it, creates a domino effect all the way back through the moment where we first left ourselves. And we'll realize that everything we experienced was why we are here now free. It wasn't stopping us, it was bringing us to a point. So it all connects back. And they said that's true freedom. When we connect this moment with the moment we left ourselves, everything in between is about serving us, coming back to the truth of who we are. And yet they said gratitude will dissolve pain. And isn't that all what we're all free of? The only thing is, again, you're looking at it saying, I'm not seeing it clearly. What is it really? That's what happens. You see it, everything that you've lived through and the real purpose behind it. It was never what we thought. And yes, it was painful, but it meant that and now we see everything in a way that it can never happen again.
Love it. That's what I get excited about. There's where the joy of life, upending deception, like
Yeah.
upending corruption. That's where I get jazzed.
Yes. And
Yeah.
this interference, this false
Lindsay
reality.
says when. Sorry, Lindsay says when, Gareth,
When
when?
when July the 5th? No, I don't know. Well, it's fluid because it's dependent on free will, but the rate the human race is accelerating, I've been shown that open contact. Now, it might be a couple of stages.
Yeah.
There may be a first interaction with the Galactic Federation's open contact that comes with a certain group that mainstream population won't see yet. But open contact fully begins in 2027 is what I've been shown. Now, don't get hung up on form and timing. Don't get because and let yourself get hung up on the form and timing and the expectations not being met, and use that as a way to be free of them as
Yeah.
well.
Yep.
Okay, so they have a role. The fact is that your ability to do that very thing is why it's happening so fast. So if you want it to happen faster, see your disappointment as a way to meet it. To
A
meet that
door. It's a
disappointment is an
doorway.
expectation coming from the ego that controls.
Yep.
Let it be there as that. Let it serve that purpose rather than being a definition that's wrong and it shouldn't have happened by now. That's the cause of suffering.
Yep.
Let that be there so it accelerates that freedom.
Okay, but you were going to say I've been shown dot dot dot.
Yeah. Yeah. So 2027 open contact ish, but be flexible. Be flexible.
Right. Okay.
The fact is the human race needs to be at the right point to receive that in the right spirit.
Yep.
So that's not something you can control. However, the rate it's happening is that's when it's happening faster than any. God told me that the manner of transition of the human race has never been attempted before in the history of the universe. So this paradigm shift is unique. No other race has gone through it. It's incredible. What we're going through is absolutely incredible, and it's ordinary.
Right. It's the extraordinary
The
ordinary.
extraordinary ordinary. Just say what you're doing stuck in your bedroom, like thinking you're wrong, and that's why it's happening. And the connection between the transformation of this reality that's going to show up, and your realization of that you played a part in that. That was the work. That takes away self-doubt. You do have what it done. not only have you got what it takes to meet life and life's worth meeting, but that was critical. This, what you've been doing is all of it. Again, gratitude dissolves pain. All of it was what brought you freedom.
Yeah.
And you had the capacity. You were meeting life the entire time. You were just told something else to stop you realizing it, making it real. So it's becoming real because we're all at the right point.
Yeah.
And ET, their role, because we're genetically connected, they are literally, the way God put it, why are they alien? We say to you, they are your brothers and sisters. And that's literal. We are genetically related to thousands of races. That connection, they have all the awareness we need, but we have to have the question, just like your family needs to be at the right point to be able to see you properly. We need to be at the right point. Humanity needs to be at the right point to see them properly. So that means the breakdown of the control narrative. If they lied about that, what else have they lied about? ET.
Everything.
So this whole thing, we need to be afraid of ET, and then maybe it's the opposite. That kind of thing becoming more mainstream. That's the caveat. So how that plays out over the next year and a half as this mainstream reality starts to collapse for everybody, that really determines the precise
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's
And
here.
Anne says if we all consciously choose our highest timeline and it will happen faster.
Yeah,
And she's right. I mean, like
exactly.
because of the snowball effect of the awakening, more people awakening, that this consciousness, because it's all energy, and a lot of people don't understand the, I don't know, physics of it, we're
Yeah.
all one. So the more of us that choose
Yep.
awakening, that
That.
choose our highest timeline, moves this faster and faster and faster.
That's the one. And
Yeah.
it's accelerating. So,
Yep. Yep.
and
All
on
right.
that note,
Yep. See you next week.
see you next week, everyone. I love everything. I
Whatever
have
you do, don't ever say see you next Tuesday. Lori Lads does her Untangled on Tuesdays, and she always says see you next Tuesday. And I texted her one day and I'm like, okay, Lori, you know I laugh every single time you say see you next Tuesday, right? She's like, yeah, I know. Because you know what that is, right, Gareth?
No, next Tuesday.
CUNT. See you next
Oh.
Tuesday. All right. On that
Oh,
note.
on that note,
All right. Love you.
love
Love
you all.
everybody. Bye, Roseanne. Bye,
See you
Mike. Bye,
next
Ann.
week. See
See
you
you
next
next
week.
week. Same
See
bat
you.
time,
I
same
can
bat
say see
channel.
you Wednesday. I'm in
You can say
Australia.
see you next Wednesday.
I'll see you next Wednesday.
All right. Love you.
See you guys.
Bye.